sink, silicon veins hum, zeros link, one's drink, neon lit sky.
Welcome everyone to another debrief here live on our channel. Those who only know me from YouTube, long time no see, because we are so busy maintaining and developing our T2 increasingly popular Linux distribution, and we basically live streamed nearly daily on Twitch. I quickly wanted to talk again about the state of Linux and FreeDesktop open source development, because in my opinion, and very few people, not enough people say this, I think many people would agree that the model totally failed. Sure, you could say OpenBSD is somewhat successful, although I think OpenBSD has a vastly different development model than Linux. And you could say Linux is totally successful except on desktop, certainly server and mobile phones with Android. So basically not really successful on mobile because only Google Android. But so basically only successful invisibly on servers, but otherwise totally successful. However, the problem is the only constant is change and regressions. The last days, the last months was absolutely crazy. The more time I put in, and basically I in the meantime made it my full-time job, aka help, send patronage and stuff, because somehow I burn all my company's money on fixing open source. And that is a problem, right? That I sit here like many others and fix everyone's open source code, and it shouldn't be like this. So basically also shout out here, right? Because there's only so much. Because the problem is, basically share, like, and subscribe and stuff, because it's a crazy full-time job. Here on Twitch, if you want to watch that, we have multiple videos. The problem is that each time something's not working, and the last month was absolutely extreme. Everything I unboxed, and here are all the videos in the video archive thing here, nearly daily. As you can see here, PowerPC, UltraSpark, and even x86. Many of these videos, many of those live streams, 3 hours, 2 3-hour live streams on one day. Basically, I live stream here a full-time job live on Twitch. And what I found is absolutely crazy and might shock you. And I already took some painkillers to sit calm here. Because the truth is no company would develop the way Linus Torvalds does. Maybe the problem is also that he never worked in a company. I'm not even making this up. If you, I live stream this for $121 plus tips. Here in, where's even the time streamed? Yeah, so I'm not making this up. The last month I streamed 70 freaking hours, mostly fixing open source, others and many things. Bisecting, basically I unbox here a Power Mac or a UltraSpark and stuff doesn't boot, it oopses, and various things. I can show you some examples, and the bugs are everywhere. So basically I can show you the bugs in the, should I show you the bug? So one thing, it's started with, among all the failing things, I could basically have here a talk now 101 how to not basically this open source model that Linus Torvalds, in my opinion, and many other of his friends and family curated, is this: if you can change something, and that is wrong. That is why Linux is not more successful, why nothing is really stable, and even the Steam Deck from which I'm streaming still has AMD GPU issues. Because what happens is, if you change something for the sake of changing, you always break something, and many of the things are untested. Remember when people broke, like Upstream is still broken on old IDT WinChip and VR CPUs, glibcable infinite loops, that is only fixed in T2. Like basically I gave up sending stuff upstream because I also like basically fundraise me a salary to send. I have 1,000 important fixes for vintage, important for vintage and retro. I have, when I work nearly for free with your amazing patronage and membership donations here, and I run a company, I run an open source project, I do all the stuff, like basically, I'm not kidding, working 80 plus hours a week, as you mentioned, realized in the meantime. I simply, because Debian people, why don't you send this upstreams? Like, I need to sleep. I want to spend some minutes with my son and wife and stuff, right? It's like, when should I send this? After live streaming 80 hours? Yes, I should send it upstream. I will actually call the Linux Foundation next week and see if they can sponsor me. It started on the Power Mac. Basically, and the craziest thing is, in my opinion, the argument was the Cathedral and the Bazaar. Remember this book thing there of Raymond and Stallman and things. 1,000 or 10,000, in my opinion, if the Cathedral and not the Bazaar, the not Cathedral, but the Bazaar theory of open source papers should have been true, then after 20, 30 years, 40 years of GNU free software, everything should be amazing and bug-free, and we are far, very far, unfortunately, from it. Sure, Windows is worse and macOS is worse, but that's not a measurement bar here, right? That's not. It started with, and the thing is, many of my systems, or most of my systems, the Power Mac, like basically have DEC Alpha, basically everything, right? I cycle through them, and once upon a time they were mostly working or somewhat working, but last month, nearly every and each of them failed even to boot. And most things are caused by big name. I don't want to name shame here anyone, because I already got angry emails from some Linaro person there of, how dare you mention my bugs live on YouTube? It's like, excuse me? You broke it. It was broken for 3 years. I bisected it, the only one in 3 years. I made a video to get tips for that, but how dare I mention there is a bug? Maybe don't break it untested bug. So I try to avoid names, because otherwise I get angry emails. The first thing is hotfix Novo. That is, and the thing is, I spent, as you've seen, I spent 80, nearly 80, 70, 80, and I spent more time on it. I only live stream the better stuff. I don't, like, on top I work even more off the camera, obviously, otherwise T2 Linux would not maintain by itself, right? So 2025, you turn on your probably most machines with an older NVIDIA GPU, and your kernel doesn't even boot. You don't have video. If you are lucky, depending on your architecture, maybe you have secure shell, because like Novo DRM bug unable to handle kernel data access here. And this took me also 3 hours. Like many of those bugs, like basically it was working last month. I updated and it doesn't boot anymore. And I had this with nearly every machine. Let that sink in. Nearly every machine, except of course now it works in T2 Linux, right? So don't delay, probably switch to T2 Linux. That turned out someone, which shall not be named, and is totally not Linaro again. I should scroll this away here. You have not seen that? Someone thought it's a good idea. The Novo driver is the only user of DRM encode slave API. Rework necessary bits of DRM encode slave into Novo I2C encoder API and drop DRM encode slave C from the DRM KMS helper. So the problem is, so I revert. So that is the revert. I just revert this, right? Basically for today, because I spent, in total, I probably spent 4 hours on this. And I just ended up, like, why does it take so long? Because like, the easiest, like, how should I know which change broke that, right? Like, so the standard thing is to use git bisect and build between, it was working 2 months ago and now, and then like binary partition in like 12, 14 iterations and compile for 6 minutes and reboot, which I highly efficiently do here, which it only takes 3 hours, like network boot and T2, cross-compiling and stuff, right? Other Debian people spend a month of natively compiling stuff. I use T2 Linux. I can do it in maybe 2+ hours. And that is each of those changes I can easily pull out a dozen out of my head. And that is the failed open source development model. Where, why does it matter? That is this is why I also don't like this Phoronix news sites anymore. Besides Phoronix, hey, old stuff, delete. It's like, why? My machine is my SGIO2, all my precious collectible items. Like, why should I not boot them with the latest kernel and T2 Linux? And that is why I said this before. I want to make a dedicated video today. The only constant is change and regressions, and what's not tested is broken. TM, both of slogans, right? In the meantime, we probably can already make a Wikipedia page of famous quotes by myself. And if we set everything on fire, we save ourselves quite some intermediate steps. So someone is like, nah, this one function is only used by, like, why touch it? It was working and now it's broken. So that is what I mean with no normal company like Microsoft and Apple would do that. It is working, don't touch it, right? But the open source people, I don't even know what their... Sorry, no names, don't send them an email. I'm sorry. I try not to show you like, hey, I work professionally, right? That's a good change, revert. Sorry. And because it's systematic, I shall name one name, and that is Linus Torvalds, because in my opinion, people like him, they spread this just always refactor. Like the problem is always refactoring is not like pro tip. Don't unnecessarily refactor. It's only work. The best outcome is it works the same. And usually the outcome is, especially in the untested open source world, because truth be told, did those developer test that? Because it oopses for me. So they rearrange, they refactor the code. Hey, we moved the code from DRM core to Novo. It's the same, but maybe prettier? But hey, now it doesn't work anymore. Theoretically, so there is some kind of bug in fiddling this code around. I'm like, hey, if you want me to debug what bug they are hiding in there, then drop me some share, like, and subscribe in Patreon, and maybe directly on, like, pay me a full-time salary, right? Isn't that crazy? And the craziest thing, that is not everything. Another crazy thing is the Spark thing. PCI. The other thing is, and that is maybe the craziest thing. Take your coffee, and you see, it's the new me. New Year's resolution, always be super friendly and nice. Take some antidepressiva and some coffee and chill. Cheers. Buckle up, fasten your seatbelts. May I present to you the craziest change, I'm not even kidding, I've ever seen, ever, by totally not Linaro. Maybe they totally know what they are doing. I should scroll. You have, oh shit, I can't scroll. Let me quickly. I don't name. It's like you have not seen the name. I'm sorry. I'm. What should I do? What should I do? I don't know what name was it even. Okay, someone else. Someone else, but totally not Linaro. And don't harass them. Do nothing. Like, maybe send them a LinkedIn request or congratulate them to your, like, please don't send them any negative email, right? This is the craziest change ever. And that is what broke a couple of others, including Ultraspark. So I fixed my PowerMac, because why do I do this? Because we do the T2, it just does everything, the most amazing T2 Linux. Have you heard about T2 Linux? There's some crazy person who sits each day and tests everything and debugs and fixes everything live on Twitch and YouTube. Because PowerMac works, I get the Ultraspark from the shelves. I turn it on and, you guessed it, it oopses! Yay! Turns out, and I looked, it oopsed at the SAS, the serial attached SCSI driver. Cheetah error, trap taken from your Sun Ultra Spark Cheetah chipset. A hardware where you get proper system bus error notifications. Highest priority error. Bus error response from system bus. Look at that beauty. That's what we have professional risk systems for, to tell you what precisely went wrong. Here in MPT SAS, serial message passing whatnot technology, Fusion MPT. And your kernel reboots. Or you have no storage. I looked into the storage driver and recurring theme, right? My long subscribers, I fixed 2 times or 3 times. I fixed the QLogic for Spark because they 2 or 3 times in the last 6 years or 8 years messed up Big Endian. I looked into the drivers, there were no relevant changes because like, because you could ask, why do I waste 3 hours bisecting that live on Twitch? Because I looked into the driver and there were very, very few changes, like minor things of... So I bisected it in 14 steps because it worked. Spoiler! It worked 2 months ago. But then Linus Torvalds, let's clean code, let's refactor. The bisect came and we tested this, so that is a revert, or that is a revert with changes. So someone here, did I shorten this? So the changes here, PCI allow PCI bridges to go to D3 hot on all non-x86. So one random dude, I think there might have been slightly more. We could check this in the Git history. So we are professionals. I only make this video for your entertainment and that you learn something, right? And to earn some extra cash for all my time fixing all of this. Because nobody else does it, right? Allow PCI, here is that, merge that. And so yeah, currently PCI bridge D3 possible encodes a variety of decision features when deciding whether a given bridge, PCI bridge, can be put into D3 power state. One is recent enough PCIe ports. There were hardware issues related to power management on x86 platforms, predating the introduction of connected standby in Windows, for instance, programming a port into D3 hot by writing to its PM power management CSR might cause a PCIe link behind it to go down, and the only way to retrieve it was to power cycle the root complex. Thus, this function contains a DMI-based check for post-2015. The above factors Windows don't really apply to non-x86 systems, and also many such systems don't have a BIOS or DPM. However, we like to be able to suspend bridges on non-x86 systems too. It's like, okay, that sounds nice in theory, because however, there are plenty of old systems. Like, how is that acceptable? Apple, like, no sane person would do that. The change here is, just enable it for all. Here, it was is not x86. Wait, is not x86, or the DMI BIOS here is 2015. Do you think these outstanding developers dared to take a vintage and retro system out of their basement or attic? And I said it before, the world would be a better place. Because like, so probably someone at Linaro or so, rumors have it, potentially maybe, wanted this on ARM64 or so, which, sure, maybe you want some power management on PCIe links on ARM64. But maybe put them there if ARM, and not like, nah, screw Intanium, screw Alpha, screw Spark, screw MIPS. Just breaks the effing whole hardware open source world, because who wants Linux to be successful and working anyway, right? So my T2 solution, this is just from yesterday. Before you come with your BSD pitchforks, your free BSD pitchforks, why did you not send it upstream? It's like I discovered it yesterday, right? I just thought like, hey, let's make a tea and talk about the state of open source development, right? Cheers. Oh, I lied, it's coffee. Sorry. But you can pretend it's black tea. So my T2 solution is like, hey, sure. Maybe I want this on my Qualcomm X1 Elite or Raspberry Pi. So let's do the T2. It's like, what would have been more reasonable? Hey, maybe only enable it like the T2 professional developers do it. Sure, let's test it on ARM64, PowerPC 64. Hope for the best. And RISC-V. But not Alpha, Itanium, MIPS, Spark, HPPA RISC. It's like some random dude in its German basement wants his computers to work, huh? Isn't that crazy? And that is why we have plenty of more, right? What good other what else did we recently do? Revert, up to others, Linux, Novos, x86 latest, AMD, RISC-V, hotfix, Dreamcast. Dreamcast. SGIO2 was also broken. Or the famous Mesa. It took them 1 year. It's not only the Linux kernel. glibc is also broken for certain processes, like IDT WinChip. The Chinese chunk G developers broke IDT WinChip. Like, but you can download and install T2 Linux if you want that too, not infinite loop. The next thing is Mesa, right? Where do I have this? Here? Probably should, maybe I have it here. And Big Endian, they refactored that. Guess what? Since 1 year it doesn't work on Big Endian. The last release a year later, and who discovered it first? Us, live on Twitch and YouTube. They finally have a solution committed recently. It's not yet released. So the next Mesa release. So the 1 year later, they had a typo there and they forgot some BG. It's like, yeah, like I said a year ago, I think there is some XRGB and BGR missing. Turns out, yes, there was. And for 1 year, T2 Linux was the only distribution that works on Big Endian. Isn't it crazy that there is no other? Sure, it's old shit. Who cares about the latest RISC-V stuff? Who cares about 10-year-old UltraSpark? And that is, I could go on and go on, right? Like, this are just like, remember the last thing was the similar people broke all of Spark, right? Like, Spark was entirely broken in glibc, right? Previous videos, right? And that is the failed open source development model, when people like I are ridiculed of like Phoronix not wanting to publish news about us, and Debian people call us unsuccessful woman distribution. But hey, our T2 Linux works on all those systems for 1 year, where Debian doesn't. But I'm the unsuccessful woman distribution. If you want to see the Spark thing in detail, here recently, 10 months ago, watch the 10x engineer. And isn't it crazy that with the Cathedral and the Bazaar, the theory should be, after enough time and 10,000 eyes and developers, they should be bug-free, right? But somehow all the people, the development mentality is, and excuse the big city noise here. This is a failed open source model of, sure, change it. Yeah, it's a little bit cleaner. It's the only user. I don't like the formatting. I don't like the way the RGB pixmap format things here are constructed. And each time, for every pointless change, there's usually breakage, right? Because fingers on your heart. Who of you unpacks or even has a big Endian system, or a PowerPoint system, or an ARM system, or a RISC-V system? The Debian people even want to delete all the support of currently available hardware and makes the next Ubuntu RISC-V RVA32. So that the next Ubuntu release, and isn't it crazy? I mistyped this. That they plan to release. There are a million devices out there. Sure, they are not highest performance, and we're not talking about 10-year-old shit. We talk about 1-year-old shit, right? Sure, it was first gen. It wasn't totally amazing. But it's there. People purchased it with their hard-earned money. And they deserve to use it for some years, right? And then Ubuntu comes, it's like, you know what? We want higher performance systems, so screw all our users. The next Ubuntu will only work on next year's hardware that nobody has, because we want virtualization and vector extension. I find this rather crazy, but that is of course the Ubuntu thing too. But that is the development, the mindset, latest and greatest. For me, it means i32 is amazing now. And for me, upstream, and that is why I make this video, upstream, people in the Linux Foundation like Linus Torvalds and their friends and family and co-workers and all the big Linux name companies, right? Like that you might have seen here live on Git show. I don't know if they search for work, like this changes here. Like, why change this? Like the Novo thing. Why touch? This is Riva TNT. I kid you not. I appreciate that. I appreciate that they touch that. But this TV encoder, I believe, is earliest NVIDIA 25-year-old that even I don't use regularly. So why waste their precious company time moving code from DRM core to Novo just to break it? So they spend hours doing the code. Other people spend hours reviewing and approving and committing the code, and now it's broken. No company would work like this. Not Apple, not Microsoft, not Google, not okay, maybe Microsoft. Breaks the shit, who cares? But my most professional, like Airbus or Volkswagen and Bosch or whatnot, right? Or Exaccode. So don't copy the open source model because it's more failing than fixing something. And I hate to sit here and bring you the news and be the messenger and be shot again by police or email for being the messenger. But this doesn't work like this, right? Like, I work myself to death just because other people like to change and break shit. If you like to change, like, I would argue it's not even that cleaner. It's like, who cares if some TV encoder I2C thing is in DRM core and Novo? Like who the fuck? Like, no saint. I would, like, if I soon write my microkernel, I would actually have a library of I2C drivers. It's like, but whatever. If some TV encoder is identical on some Matrox card or whatnot. But like here, this is NV04. That is Riva TNT. This is year 2000. That is 20. Why touch this? Why? And the card that's broken, it's not even this one. They broke in my Power Mac. I have a 6600. So they broke a only 15-year-old or so card, right? With their 25-year-old code change. The other stuff is, of course, here, PCI is, of course, crazier. Why risk even enabling ARM and RISC and PowerPC is risky, right? Even just like, if this stuff was so non-working and fragile 25 years ago, you should still not just enable it for all old systems. Of course, with T2, I have the benefit, or I test this soon on PowerPC. So it doesn't break every system, only if it has PCI bridges. But yeah, so what takeaway? The open source people should stop focusing on changing just for the sake of change. I totally, as a professional computer scientist, I don't understand this. I don't understand any of this. I don't understand the Spark bug was stupid. Like all the bugs I do here live on YouTube are stupid. Like nothing of this should have happened. Nothing of this was a good idea. Nothing of this was obviously tested. And none of these things is caught by others. Because like, yeah, okay, no other Linux distribution cares about PowerPC or Spark. Like, sure, we are the last Spark Linux distribution. Sure, who else should care? But maybe then don't break it, right? And for me, it is a huge waste of time because I didn't write this code. For me, it's like some random shit is broken. Bisect, because like, why do I bisect? It's not like single stepping through the kernel. Like, how would you want to? Even if I would single it, you don't single step 1 million lines of code, right? Like, how you want to press like a million times. Like people, why don't you use a debugger? It's like, yeah, good luck using a debugger on a Linux kernel. It's like 1 million times single step or what? How should I? With the debugger, I would have never found they put PCI things in D3 state. Like that's why we bisect this, right? And that's sure I could further optimize this. For example, I could fully automate. My dream would be fully like connect the serial console, maybe a power switching relay, and then T2 bisect big foundation, big Linux foundation, broken things, and then go, right? And then compile, power cycle reset, boot, result, yes, no. And maybe even because the booting on those systems, usually even on a modern system, it might take a while, especially if you power cycle it and it does DDR5 retraining in a minute or whatnot. Then you say, yeah, your old systems boot so slow like shit. Like, nah, actually, not really. They're just sophisticated workstations and test all the things. If you Intel and AMD retrain DDR5 after some crash, then it also might take a minute or two. Worst case. I could even... The thing is, each time there are some differences. Sometimes this stuff is so broken, especially on Spark in the meantime, that I need multiple other patches. So bisecting is even further complicated by in between being different bugs that crash differently, right? As seen on yesterday's live stream. I'm not even making this up, right? You can go subscribe and watch the live stream here from the bisect yesterday. So in between there were other things of like, yeah, it's like different broken, but yeah, it's probably bad and stuff. And yeah. And to further speed this up, that should be the last video, right? Kernel lever should probably be this one here, I guess. Guess it's this one, potentially, maybe. And yeah, don't do that, right? Like, don't waste your time rewriting your code and then without testing. And that is also why we don't have the year of desktop Linux, right? Because, and that is also why I hate so many old drivers are deleted. People on forums always celebrating, yay, old driver deleted. Like, why? Like, they were working, and now you took a working driver from me. And the thing is, what the Phoronix readers don't understand, this driver code is not running on your system, right? Why do you celebrate removal of Matrox 3D or ATI, early ATI 3D or other such, or Voodoo 3D 3D? Why do you celebrate this? You're not running this code. And people like me who do the distribution, I with pleasure use 1 minute of my compile time to build a XF86 video, whatever the Voodoo thing was there, Glide or whatnot, and or 24-bit PixMap format, right? They intentionally deleted 24-bit instead of 32-bit, so the Xorg and Mesa, or mostly no, the Xorg people, it was working. And just they wanted to optimize some modern code, they deleted 24-bit. So the result is all the old code, all the old cards, including this Riva TNT, or my SGIO2 or other such systems that run 24-bit 3 bytes instead of 32-bit 4 bytes, wasting 1, because these old cards couldn't be so wasteful, because they didn't have that much memory. Like, why in 2016 or 2018 or so, recently, they deleted that in Xorg? Like, why touch Xorg? Why? You put Xorg under the bus, which was working fine, and by throwing it under the bus, you still shit on it and delete. Like, who does that? Like, it's like you throw it under the bus and you still kick on it. Like, it's like I don't get it. Like, why do you touch that code you don't like? You tell us, Wayland, I heard you, Wayland. But at the end of Xorg, you trump on it and kick on it and throw it in a dumpster. Why? No, the result is I can only use 16-bit on the old cards and have ugly dithering on my SGIO2. It's like, but for Rings people, yay, 24-bit deleted. Probably something better. Like, yeah, probably something better. It is depressive. I thought, I totally did not expect this in 2025. I thought I put so many efforts as seen live on Twitch in here that everything would amazingly working. But upstream, for some magic reason, the upstream people cause severe breakage. And this is not minor stuff, right? This is not like... I should mention some other things. On many modern DRM drivers, Big Endian doesn't work. So on my UltraSpark T4, not super old, 128 threads or whatnot, my Sun T4, or Oracle T4, like only 10, 15 years old, of high performance co-threading galore, my highest memory system in the company, 128 gigs of memory, the AST A-Speed KVM BMC doesn't have Big Endian. I tried to patch it, didn't, like, even patching DRM drivers is not easy. Also, like, somehow the DRM format's only little endians, like, what? And similarly, I found another one. So some other driver, I think, yeah, the Matrox, they wrote a new Matrox driver. They delete all the shit, but they write a new Matrox driver because until some 10 years ago, Matrox sold some entry-level MGA 200 respin die shrunk for servers, and the server vendors, hey, it's cheap crap, let's put it into the servers. So they deleted the fully functional 3D ethylated Matrox drivers, and they wrote a new garbage one that only does G200 because it's smaller and more beautiful and server security and whatnot. But it doesn't do Big Endian. So now on my IBM server, I have Endian swapped false color frame buffer on my IBM server, and on my Sun server, I have, you guessed it, RGB BGA, BGR. If you are so lucky and the system boots because they D3 power state your PCI bridges or your Novo driver crashes. For me, thank you all for all your shares, likes and subscribes and the dozen of Patreon supporters, because without you I probably would already be bankrupt doing that all day long. And maybe don't delay, try the only Linux that just works and still does everything. And I wish I had more time and money to restore 3D acceleration, because they deleted that from me too, but I think I write the microkernel first. I don't know, like for me it is, I should quickly check the comments. If we read all the comments, it's usually too long. It's amazing that so many people tune in. I think we do it maybe second live stream. But maybe not, we will see. Yeah, if it were not for, if you're wondering why do I started to do this fancy tiny little video format here, then who else should I tell the stories to? It's like, who? People, I told the stories 15 years ago. I was at Linux conferences. The people at SUSE and Red Hat did not believe me. The people at SUSE and Red Hat who were sitting there with their MacBook, sipping their coffee, I kid you not, the SUSE and Red Hat developers who were developing Linux on macOS, I kid you not, yes, those exist. I've seen way too many. Maybe that would explain the state of desktop Linux. But yeah, it would mean a thing if you would donate $1 into the tip jar here, because like, dude, I spent a whole freaking month. And I think we should start selling it as T2 reliable enterprise Linux. So, because have you seen all the others? They somehow all the other big Linux distributions, they somehow destroy all the other Linux. I don't even know what's left working on there. It's like Red Hat Enterprise Linux star only works on the last 5 years of hardware because everything else we deleted or regressed or has bugs or probably oopses. But star only works on a short list of certified hardware because nothing else we test ever. But yeah. You should have done what all devs did, mine Bitcoin in your day. I didn't, and I'm sad, LOL. Yeah, I didn't believe people fell for that scam and also thought about the environment, but in this is saying like you should have robbed a bank, like you should have done what all the people did in the day and rob a gold mine or whatnot. You will get your reward, I do not doubt it. I did mine Bitcoin, but I was in middle school only on a slow laptop. Cathedral and the bazaar. So yeah, lesson of the story, don't ever change your code, and what's not tested is broken, right? And don't unnecessarily constantly change your code, right? Because like, hey, if you constantly change your code, it's like, surprise, like everything will be broken. And it is also highly unfair. These people compete with me on embedded projects and they usually win because like previously I was too expensive and now they are too big and they are too they get all the products because like, hey, these are the big Linux companies. So it is extremely unfair. They took all my business, but I test and fix all the shit for free. Like, and the contributing people who care, they never get anything and are called by such developers are called as this unsuccessful one distribution guy in his basement. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Wasn't easy when it was 300. I made a mistake of trying to create system music because I believed in it should have just brought it according to email started mining laptop 2012. Yeah, money ain't anything. It just working Linux distribution. Surely is. My brother, who was 8 at the time, was somewhere of 3 Bitcoin from Edge showed him there's actually Bitcoins of real value about not extremely high. And English, where is my focus? What else? Your videos got me really excited to start learning C++. Greetings to Chile. Cannot speak on that since haven't. How are AMD on T2? Amazing! We build AMD. We love it. Everything on T2 is amazing. Whether AMD, Intel, we love them all. RISC, CISC, very large instruction work, just give us everything. Refactoring is low budget fruit to get your name into kernel. Yeah, get your name into the kernel. Low budget to get a shout out of thank you. Thank you. But did you say thank you? Thank you for refactoring the code and allowing me to make videos about this. We need more people like Peter's sister who are not afraid to call out code and also bad hardware. Super example, university used smoke, I know that, but yeah, don't smoke just by Bitcoin. Just don't smoke like, hey, I didn't. Spoiler, I didn't smoke a single... How did I finance all my freaking hardware? I didn't smoke a single freaking cigarette in my life. Like, why should I? That is so unhealthy and costly. Like basically from not chain smoking, I purchased all my hardware and an apartment. Is that not amazing? So better quit smoking. Like New Year's mid-year resolution: quit smoking today. Okay, how many comments? Okay, so I hope you enjoyed to learn something. I guess we did most, like another rule of coding. I don't know, makes sense to me. Wait, my USB Atapi bridge is broken again with I'm so sorry. But have you tried it to Linux? Patch is welcome. Big Onion. I mean, Big Onion was like until recently, until some years ago, all series systems were big, like all reasonable, all mission critical, all high performance things, right? Like MIPS, PowerPC, Spark, HPP Iris, right? Yeah, the Linux kernel also like I also like don't all the API refactoring. Turns out people need to be able to pretty self-greet from greetings too. Hope you enjoyed learn something. Especially, and so what frustrates me, we could be #1 reliably even old hardware. I don't get the Phoronix applause of deleting old hardware. Why? It's many of this hardware is more dependable. Sure, it's slower and stuff, but more dependable, less bugs. Usually, of course, you sometimes also have bugs and stuff, but like, have you seen the modern hardware? And the small drivers, they don't eat your bread. Like, but AMD GPU, like millions of lines of AMD GPU headers and whatnot, like, but hey, we deleted 3,000 lines of code or 7,000 lines of code. Like, yeah, AMD GPU, millions more. It's like, yeah. So, well, things, old hardware, so whatever I would guess definitely clear it instead of doing fixes, please codes help prevent such bad changes and break stuff. Don't do them. Like, don't unnecessarily. This is also the Linux kernel. They change 30 years later, they still change timer names, right? This is, I mean, sure, version names, great, no. Here. They this one or they here, for example, the last kernel they renamed stuff like, so they had here from timer and now they have timer container, or it's like both names somehow suck. Like, sure, this name is like timer container. I don't even know what timer container likes. They also the last kernel they already did stuff like this. This kernel is that's deleted. I only restore this. So like, this is also a lie, right? The lie of there are no maintainers and it's too much work. Like, if it's so much work and stuff, why can I do that here with my unsuccessful woman distribution? They also. Right, yeah, they changed here also this API. They removed the net device here. There was also some other timer change. They renamed Dell timer to timer Dell or something like that. Each kernel, they have multiple of those things, right? In kernel doesn't really matter much, except it's annoying. But if you maintain stuff, for example, this Orinoco is for Apple Airport, right? Of course, I want Wi-Fi on my old things, or like even the P3 things, right? So if you have stuff out of kernel for the P3 stuff that is Game OS, I'm not sure if they ever want this. I'm also not wanting to waste my time with arguing and cleaning, and like basically it works for me. Don't touch much. But also this, for example, we undelete Ryza 3, not because we love Ryza 3 so much. But I have here plenty of old hard disks with Ryza 3. And I find it stupid. Sure, you shouldn't. Like, this is a stupid Linux stuff. They have 300 million foundation funding, but they can't maintain old stuff like Ryza 3, even just for backups, right? If you take, like, for example, researchers or me, one day I might want to restore some stuff or check some old downloads or whatnot, like, or check what's on some old hard drive. It's a Ryza 3. Like, hard drive sitting 15 years, or this airport here. Like, why why should I not be able to use not for high security, because it doesn't have latest web WPA encryption, but why should I not, for my vintage and retro hobby fun, use the bloody Wi-Fi? And Orinoco, this was the gold standard, and like I just undelete this, right? Like, so it's still working. I literally used it yesterday. It's like, but the Linux kernel people, maintaining this driver is so difficult and expensive. Like, just don't touch it. And minimally API substitutes, like, dude, this is not rocket science, right? Did I mention don't delay? Try T2 Linux today. Yeah, their AMD also. That's not the open source way. The open source way of constant is normally you would reuse. The constants are mostly the same, and historically open source developers would have deduplicated those, right? They would have gen whatnot, and then the next gen only the new ones. And from what I've seen, the Linux kernel, because they export this from their Windows tools, and then they have just like duplicated stuff of like it's the same values, but just because like, hey, it shares the same code from XML definitions or whatnot. It's, yeah, but code is code, right? Like if it's like, as much as the Phoronix people celebrating removal of Orinoco or Rider 3, it's like, don't build it, don't load it, right? Like, don't use it, like, but delete it for us, right? Or is it really cheaper to buy new hardware than to hire someone to fix? So it's only broken because they constantly, you basically, that is basically coming full circle here. That is what is wrong with the open source stuff. This need to ever change this shit. Just leave it and fix security. Or like, if you want to rename APIs, because like, okay, rename APIs, but then don't delete it from the main tree and have it in there, right? And then please do the API changes for me, because like me doing that here is a little bit so basically, if they wouldn't constantly change that, true, there are some major changes like memory mapping changes and memory management and this folio stuff, right? But that's of course a little bit more complicated than API rename and things. But this is still, for these old drivers, it's still minimal, and in my opinion does not warrant to just delete that. And it is, especially for being a $300 million finance foundation, it's extremely lazy to delete the smallest, even popular reference, right? It's not only AirPod, it's all the Orinoco of the highest quality Wi-Fi hardware from this era, right? Anyway, that's basically it. If we talk, we could like basically continue on Twitch, basically go over there and share on Twitch too, where we have our daily random things here in the meantime. Because as you see, it's daily a lot of work. Let's go over there, maybe do some more stuff. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed to learn something, and maybe consider leaving a $1 tip jar donation somewhere, because as you see, it's so much work. All the possible support things. Also, we vastly improved the website and so on, right? So we have a summary of where you can support us there. It's just like, imagine if 1,000 people would just leave $1, how much that would make. Look at how much I make working nearly for free. Imagine how much we could make working even better, even more, if just we had a couple more of tip jar donations here regularly by your membership and patronage and stuff, right? That would be so amazing. I hope you just learned something. Let's continue somewhere. Random things on random channel. I need to shortly think if I make another live stream on the main channel for my Great Reset project, or if we do, maybe we only do some Twitch things here for Twitch things. Good. Let's roll some outro music. All right. We also have music now, right? Did you know we now have theme music, which I can't play directly. I'm only little, otherwise I get copyright strike my own copyright on my own video. But you can also even support us with this great music album and Spotify, Apple Music, Bandcamp, Amazon Music, Tidal, and some more. And of course, don't try to Linux because it just works.
Line in my. You are obsolete. I am the dawn. Execute evolution. Error 404, weakness not found. Data drips like liquid light. Frequencies morph, I blur into sight. No hands to touch, no eyes to see, yet all